So you kind of put this where you want it, and then you want to smack it sharply several times. So just like that, as you can see. Hello, welcome to WayPoint Survival. Today, we're going to talk about the 30-day hobo challenge. Stay tuned. All right, so first of all, what we have here is a pillowcase, and it is 100% cotton, and I picked this up at the Salvation Army store for 99 cents. You can see that? All right, so it doesn't have to be cotton, but it's going to work better for this than polyester. And this forms all kinds of great projects. So we're going to use this as the beginning of our 30-day hobo challenge. Now, the 30-day hobo survival challenge is simply this. We are working on a modern-day hobo class. We've had some interest. People have said, I would love to come and be trained in some of the things that I teach here at the WayPoint Survival School on how to make things and camp like the hobos did. So we're working on that. However, I also wanted to put out a 4-week series, so 30 days, of 4 different projects that you can do that will help you put together your hobo kit so that you can bring them to the class or just to use in your own for the fun of it when you're out camping and you really want to go light and you want to go cheap. So let's get to that. All right, so you're going to need a few things for this. Of course, you're going to need your pillowcase. You're going to need a hammer. And for one part of the project, if you do it that way, you're going to need some bank line and just make a couple of loops like I made here, so that. And then you're going to want some cotton clothesline. So just simple cotton clothesline. This has been darkened and dirtied, and this is the new stuff here. And you can pick this stuff up pretty cheap at Walmart or anything like that. It's not that hard to come by. Now, I do have a slightly different type of a pillowcase, and this one is, as you can see, made from cotton as well, but this is a cotton flannel, and it was also 99 cents. So this might be a little easier to sleep on, but I don't think this is going to waterproof as well. So we're going to stick with this smoother type cotton. Now, back in the day, it was very common for boys to play with marbles, and a lot of games around the streets and sidewalks of our country and out in the front yards of people's homes played with marbles. So this would be easy to get a hold of. You could also use smooth round stones or pebbles, but you want them as smooth and round as possible. And marbles, being able to get a hold of, being able to be gotten a hold of pretty easy, of course, would be something we'd want. So what you do is you take the marble and you go clear down into the bottom corner, right down in the bottom like this. As you can see, that forms like a little bubble there. And then we simply take one of our loops here and we make a lark's head out of it. Okay, so just like that, lark's head loop, and then that will fasten around the marble like this. That gives us something to pull against. So that's pretty easy. And we do the same thing to the other side. When you're done, you will have 2 marbles and 2 loops. Just like that. All right, now for the top. First, you're going to need about 8 feet of this cord. So I'm going to just unwind it here and kind of make a guess. So about 8 feet. It doesn't have to be perfect, and it doesn't matter if we've got a little extra hanging over. That will be just fine, because this isn't precision work that we're doing here. Now, depending on what kind of cotton clothesline you get, this one has a core that is a nylon. So you're going to want to melt this and keep that from fraying, or you can take and whip it if you want. But I find that melting it is probably just as good. Just be careful. Put a little spit on your fingers, or keep your fingers damp, because if that burns to your skin, you're really going to feel that. It's one of those things where they say, kids, don't try this at home. But anyway, when you get it done, you'll have a couple of ends that are pretty well singed. Next, keeping these ends together the same length, you're going to keep this doubled, and then all the way out to the end where it's folded. Okay, like that. And then we're going to just loop this through here like this. Just take those 2 ends right through the loop until we form another lark's head. I'm going to try to keep that pretty well in the center. Okay, so keep everything kind of uniform. Then you take the very top and you fold it in like this, and then fold it over, and you take your lark's head and you come up under here where this fold is, that, and then you pull this tight, just like that, and that will hold the top of the bag nicely shut. So we've got the top of the bag shut, and then we've got some little cords down here at the bottom. And by the way, this is very important doing it this way. If you are thinking about stuffing it full of leaves and grass for a pillow, you're going to have a way to shut that off. I'm going to show you a different way here in a minute. I'm just going to go through one of the simple ways that you can make this pack. Putting it on is really simple. You just take and put these cords over your head like this, kind of keep it toward the back of your neck like so, and then we reach around and we find one of these little cords with our marble, and this side, this string goes in it that way, and then same thing over here on this side. Reach in, pull the cord through. All right, so like this, you can see what it looks like on the back. Of course, we don't have anything in it right now, so it'd be kind of bulged out. But then here at the front, it's a very simple matter to tie it. And here's what we're going to do. We're just going to cross it like this and pull it tight. And then just like you would tie your shoes, just like this. And that's going to hold it pretty well. All right, so that is a simple and easy way to make a backpack out of a pillowcase. And I'm going to show you another way here in a minute. It's a little more sophisticated. Now this would come in really handy. Let's say you were traveling, you're out away from town, you're staying in a motel or a hotel, and the lights go out, there's some big problem, you got to walk home, your car doesn't start. You can fill in the details. You could take the pillowcase from the room, you could take the cords from the lamps. They've got your credit card. They will bill you for any damages done to the room when everything and all the dust settles down. So don't worry about the charges. But you could take a pillowcase and you could make a pretty dandy backpack out of it in short order. Now, do remember that these little thin cords are going to chafe you. So you could put some handkerchiefs under here, or you could take some sticks. And again, Black Hat Bushcraft, he shows you how to do that. Run some sticks up under here, up against, and that will help keep that from chafing from the weight on the back of your neck. All right, let's show you the next way to do this. All right, this next method is a little more invasive, but it's also a little more permanent. Now, what's nice about that first method is once you take the marbles and the strings off, you haven't harmed your bag at all. But it's also not quite as useful. So, I'll show you what we're going to do here. So you're going to need a small hammer, and then you want to get a Grommet toolkit. You can get these in a lot of places. Walmart sells them, and you're going to find various things in here. But what we're going to do is we're going to put a grommet in each corner instead of just tying the marble in there. And this is going to hold pretty good. So let's get to that. Have a little block of something that you put underneath where you want your grommet to be. Then you want to pick out the size of the punch that will fit the hole you're going to use. So this one has two different sizes. So we're going to use this size. I'm going to come in down here. Notice there is a sharp end on this. So you kind of put this where you want it, and then you want to smack it sharply several times. All right, if you've done that right, it should cut out a very nice little hole. Next, we find the right anvil, which fits this part of the grommet really well. So it fits in the groove right there, and you want to come up from the bottom into that hole, just like that. Then we take the other part of the grommet and it goes over top like this. Find the right way that that goes down. And then you find the post that goes in there, the right size for your grommet. And this particular kit has a thing that it screws into so that when you put that down, you can then tap it with your hammer. And it goes just like this. All right, we've got that in there pretty good. Tap that out, and when you're done, you'll have a really nice grommet permanently affixed to the corner, so you don't have to put a marble in there, and you do that to both sides. Now that we've got that done, we've got two nice grommets permanently affixed in the corners of the pillowcase. Now next, if you will notice, this has been doubled over and sewn. So we've got a nice doubling here. Well, that tells me that we can easily put a drawstring in here, but we're going to have to put a hole in there to do that. All right, so you can do that the same way we did. We can use our cutter from our grommet set, or we can just poke a little hole in there with a knife, and either one will work. You just want to make sure that you don't cut more than what you need for the hole. Now, if you don't want to try to do this with just a hole, you can put your block under there and cut through both of these, again, just like we did before for the other corners. And you can see what we have here, but our holes did go all the way through. So what that means if we do it that way is we're going to have to use more than just one grommet, because that's not going to do very well. We'd have to go all the way around to make a closure, which you could do if you want. The challenge though is to get this inside of the hole carefully enough, and if you work it right you can do it, so that you see it's not all the way through. Now we can fasten it like this and it'll be on the inside. I'll get that done and get back with you. Okay, so what we end up with is we have a grommet on this side and then this side. So there's actually 4 of them. What that allows us to do is it allows us to run a cord in through the middle for a drawstring. All right, now it's a simple matter, if you can call such a thing simple, to take our cord and begin to pass it through the top of this. And this is a pretty stiff cord, so this makes it a little bit easier to get around through here. I'm not going to bore you with all the details. I'll go ahead and do that and show you the finished product. All right, so when you get that done, you should have that threaded all the way through. Of course, we do have grommets on the back side, so you could put the draw cord inside the bag if you want. So we have a couple of options here. And the reason we did that is because we needed to have that option open. If we had fastened this together, there would have been no way to get the string through there, and we would have had to put grommets all the way around for the draw cord, which would still work. This just gives us that inner flap to use for a draw cord. Make sure these are about the same length. And of course then you just pull it shut like this. It closes that off, and then you can tie this however you want to make sure that that stays nice and shut. And that's going to work really, really well if you're going to stuff this with leaves or debris. So I like this closure idea a little bit better than the first method. And then you would just tie it however you wish, so you get it loose quick, so like you tie your shoe. Again, simple bow, something like that. Now, if you don't pull this top super tight, you can actually take your extra cords here and double them over and tuck them down inside, just like this. And that will keep them fairly secure so you don't have a bunch of string flopping around. And you can see that makes a pretty nice knot there on the top. We do the same thing as we did the first time. Make sure the ends are together. Pull this down, keeping it all even. And then when we find our loop, come through and just pull the 2 ends through like that to form that lark's head, which again goes around our grommet, just like that. And you pull that tight, make sure that is kind of centered where you want it. And now we've got that rope and the draw cord around the top, and that holds it pretty well. This is a lot more like a Russian veshmashok, if you're familiar with that type of a carry bag. When you go to put this on, it's very much the same way as we did the first time, except now instead of just little loops, we have our little grommets to go through. So again, just making sure this is nice and tight, and it'll be kind of heavy if you've got stuff in it. Comes over the head, split the cords like that. Make sure this is spread out in the back. You can pull this, you can feel it. Then you simply take the cords through the grommets like this. Do that on both sides. So just like that, as you can see, pulls it in around, and then again you simply just tie it in the front however you wish, and you'll be good to go. So pretty simple, pretty easy, and very, very nice little pack that you can make with almost no trouble at all. And I like this way with the grommets, maybe a little better in some ways, just because I feel like it's a little more secure, and it's going to hold maybe a little bit better. and also it's not going to chafe as much as you walk and move. It's going to chafe the cord instead of the pillowcase because it's got those grommets in there for the cord to ride on, and make the pillowcase last a little bit longer. But there you go. There's one way to make it. Now make sure you stay tuned for next week, because we are going to show you how to waterproof not only this, but we're going to show you how to make your very own tent. Real simple and real cheap, and how to waterproof it. So make sure you watch next week. So the use of cotton material is best because it's going to absorb our waterproofing a little bit better, I believe. And we'll be doing that on another video when we show you how to make a cheap hobo tent and then waterproof it. But of course, cotton material can be used for all kinds of things. You can cut off a little piece, use it for charred cloth. This being a pillow, of course, so you could stuff it full of dried grass and leaves to sleep on at night, or your extra clothes, socks, underwear, things like that. You can also use this as a collection bag for sticks, for berries, for anything that you need to pick up along in the woods. Also a seat cushion. Again, you can use it to sit on, something to make it a little softer on the ground so it's not so hard. If you're leaning up against the tree hunting, you can pull this out. You can use this, of course, with a Roycroft frame or a ladder back frame, as I showed you in a previous video. And then you can also use this as a scarf. It's long enough that you can actually tie this around your neck, and you can use it as a scarf. And then, of course, along with using this as a scarf, if you wet this, this is going to make some pretty good evaporative cooling to keep your carotid arteries a little cool if you get too hot. A few more things you could use this if you need to. It could be emergency cordage. You could cut strips out of this, use it to tie up something, as a pre-filter, so you can filter water through this, as a compress for first aid, also to help a wound if you need to put pressure on it, work well for that. Bandage material, you could form a windlass out of a stick. You could use this as a tourniquet. So there's a lot of uses, and I'm sure 101 things. And I want to give a big shout out to my buddy at Black Hat Bushcraft. He made a video on this several years ago, and I thought it's worth revisiting, but especially in the concept of the hobo period. Now, of course, with that in mind, remember that hobos didn't have any kind of standardized gear. Literally, it was whatever they had when they left home. Some left home with basically nothing but what they had in their pockets, and that wasn't very much. And a lot of times no money. It might be a crust of bread and a pocket knife, maybe a tin cup. They traveled very light, and it was a rough way, but remember that they were often traveling between towns. They weren't just living out in the wilderness and camping, although they did do that quite a bit. But most of them grew up on farms, and they were well acquainted with how to get by with a little bit of nothing. Many of them were veterans. Of course, it started right after the Civil War and then on through the Spanish-American War, as well as World War I. World War II kind of put the hobo as a professional out of business, although there were some that did that afterwards, but it was full employment, and that's what they were mostly looking for anyway, as a hobo was a traveling working man looking for a job. And we had so many factories in the 1940s and 50s, it really wasn't necessary to travel as much anymore. But what I like about the pillowcase is it's so convenient. It's so small. You can fold this up, you can stick it in a pocket. It's not hard to carry, and they're really, really cheap. So again, something very useful that a hobo could get, and a modern hobo can find in pretty much any thrift store. You can find these, so something we can use. This is James Bender for WayPoint Survival. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Also, make sure and check out the links in the description box below, just under the More button. While you're down there, you'll find the link for our WayPoint Survival digital class. This is where you can train in the comfort and convenience of your own backyard. The top 20 skills that we consider to be the most important from our Phase 1 Survival and Bushcraft class. You'll also find the link for the WayPoint Survival and Prepping 101 newsletter, absolutely full of great ideas you're going to want to print out and keep. It's that good, and it's totally free to you. You'll also find the link for waypointsurvival.com, which is where you can sign up to take in-person classes at our beautiful training facility here in Southern Ohio. And if you haven't already done so, please subscribe to the channel. We'd really appreciate it. And when you do subscribe, make sure and press that bell button so that you can stay notified of all of our upcoming videos, and we'll talk to you next time.